The millionaire barely waited for his wife's coffin to be lowered into the ground. That very night, his lover was sleeping in his bed. But the next morning, when the lawyer opened his late wife's will, he was shocked to learn the fate of her fortune. The coffin gleamed black under the October sun. Robert Maxwell stood at the edge of the grave, his Italian suit collecting cemetery dust. Around him, 200 mourners gathered in dark clusters. He didn't cry. A beloved wife, mother, and philanthropist, the priest said. His words floated away in the wind. Robert checked his phone. 3 texts from Jennifer. He slipped it back into his pocket. The coffin started its descent into the ground. His daughter Emma's sobs cut through the silence. "Dad," Emma whispered, reaching for his hand. He pulled away. The first thud of dirt hit the coffin. Robert's fingers twitched inside his pockets. His phone vibrated again. Jennifer wouldn't stop. "Mr. Maxwell." Richard Stewart, the family lawyer, appeared at his side. "We need to discuss some urgent matters. Tomorrow." Robert's voice came out rough. Richard's gray eyes narrowed. "It's about Martha's last wishes." I said tomorrow. Robert stepped away from the grave. Movement caught his eye. Jennifer stood at the cemetery's edge, half hidden behind a marble angel. Her black dress hugged her curves. She shouldn't be here. Martha's friends would notice. Emma followed his gaze. Her face hardened. "Really, Dad? She's here?" "Not now, Emma. Mom's not even in the ground yet." The reception line formed. Robert shook hands, nodded at condolences. His cheeks hurt from holding the same expression. Jennifer had moved closer, pretending to read a headstone. "Martha was a saint, Mrs. Chun," his housekeeper said. Tears ran down her wrinkled face. 20 years she was kind to me." Robert loosened his tie. "Yes, she was." His phone buzzed again. He read the text under the cover of accepting another hug. "I can't wait anymore. Tonight or never." Emma's voice cut through his thoughts. "Dad, the foundation board wants to meet. They're worried about the charity gala next month. Handle it." He walked away from her, toward the parking lot. Richard blocked his path. "Robert, Martha changed her will 2 weeks ago. We need to, tomorrow, Richard. 9 a.m. sharp." Robert's shoes crunched on gravel. "I have matters to attend to." "Matters?" Richard grabbed his arm. "Your wife of 30 years is being buried." Robert yanked free. The lawyer's face was red with anger or maybe disgust. It didn't matter. The Mercedes started with a purr. Through the tinted windows, he watched Jennifer slip away from the crowd. Her hips swayed as she walked to her car. His phone lit up one last time. "I'm following you home." Robert gripped the steering wheel. His wedding ring caught the light. He twisted it off, dropped it in the cup holder. The metal clinked against loose change. The procession of cars would head to the mansion for the wake. Food waited, speeches, photos of Martha's life. Her smile on every wall. Robert turned the opposite direction. Behind him, Emma stood alone by the fresh grave. He adjusted his mirror so he couldn't see her anymore. The text it said tonight or never. He made his choice before the first stoplight. Martha's face filled his mind. Her last days in the hospital, skin yellow against white sheets. Her hand gripping his, making him promise to protect her legacy. "Take care of the foundation," she'd whispered. "It's all that will remain of me," he'd promised. He'd held her hand until the monitor went flat. Now he pressed the gas pedal harder. In his rearview mirror, a black BMW followed. Jennifer, his body tensed with need and shame. The mansion appeared through the trees. 3 stories of brick and judgment. Martha's roses still bloomed by the front steps. Robert parked in the circular drive. Jennifer pulled up behind him. The click of her heels on concrete echoed. "You came." Her lipstick was the color of wine. "The staff will see you. Let them." She pressed against him. Her perfume covered the smell of cemetery dirt on his suit. Robert unlocked the front door. The foyer stretched empty and dark. Somewhere upstairs, Martha's clothes still hung in closets. Her books lined the shelves. Her presence filled every corner. Jennifer's kiss tasted like cherry lip gloss and victory. Finally, she breathed against his mouth. Finally mine. His phone rang. Emma's name flashed on the screen. He turned it off. The heavy door swung shut behind them. In the distance, cars turned onto the long driveway. The wake would start soon. People would notice his absence. They would talk. Jennifer pulled him toward the stairs. Your room or hers? Mine. He couldn't sleep in Martha's bed. Not yet. Tomorrow, Richard would come with the will. Tomorrow, his daughter would rage. Tomorrow, the consequences would start. But tonight belonged to Jennifer, to skin and sweat and forgetting. The grandfather clock Martha loved struck 4. The wake would last until evening, hours of whispers and judgment. Robert followed Jennifer up the stairs. Each step felt like betrayal. Each step felt like freedom. Behind him, the front door opened. Mrs. Chun's gasp echoed in the foyer. The sound of her keys hitting the marble floor rang like an accusation. He didn't turn around. He didn't stop. Martha was in the ground. Jennifer was warm and alive. The choice was made. Mrs. Chun's keys lay untouched on the marble floor. The sound of her footsteps faded down the hallway. Robert heard drawers opening and closing in the staff quarters. Jennifer sprawled across his bed, her black dress a stain on the white sheets. Finally alone, a door slammed downstairs. Mrs. Chun's voice carried up the stairs. 20 years. 20 years I served this house. Robert walked to the window. Cars lined the driveway. People in black clustered on the front lawn. His absence would be noticed. Let them talk. Jennifer came up behind him, her hands sliding under his suit jacket. You're free now. Footsteps thundered up the main staircase. Mrs. Chun appeared in the doorway, a suitcase in her hand. Her face was stone. Mrs. Chun, Robert started. No. She held up her hand. My letter of resignation is on the kitchen counter. My final pay can be mailed. She looked at Jennifer. Mrs. Maxwell's robe does not belong on your body. Jennifer tugged Martha's silk robe tighter. It belongs to Robert now. Everything does. Mrs. Chun spat something in Mandarin. She turned to Robert. Your wife was a good woman. She deserved better than this pig. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle windows. Jennifer laughed. Well, that's one less problem. Robert's chest felt tight. He loosened his tie, but the pressure didn't ease. You shouldn't wear her things. Why not? She doesn't need them anymore. Jennifer walked to Martha's closet. The door swung open to reveal rows of designer clothes. All this going to waste. Robert's hand shook. He needed a drink. The bar cart stood in the corner. Martha's organization evident in the neat rows of bottles. He poured scotch with trembling fingers. What are you doing? He watched Jennifer pull Martha's clothes from hangers. Making room. She tossed a Chanel suit onto the floor. I'll call a donation center tomorrow. The scotch burned his throat. His reflection in Martha's vanity mirror looked old. Gray hair, lines around his mouth. Jennifer was half his age. Stop. His voice cracked. Just stop. Robert. Jennifer dropped the clothes. She's gone. You need to let go. His phone buzzed in his pocket. 15 missed calls from Emma. 10 from Richard. The society page already had photos of Jennifer at the cemetery. The comments were brutal. Disgusting display at Martha Maxwell's funeral. Gold digger and her sugar daddy couldn't wait one day. Martha Maxwell's charity legacy in jeopardy? Robert's chest tightened again. He couldn't breathe. The room spun. Baby? Jennifer's voice seemed far away. Are you okay? He stumbled into Martha's closet. Her perfume lingered on the clothes. Chanel No. 5. The same scent for 30 years. His knees hit the carpet. Black spots danced in his vision. Each breath hurt. Robert. Jennifer knelt beside him. "Should I call someone?" "Get out," he gasped. Get out of her closet. This is ridiculous. She's dead, Robert. Dead. Martha's shoes lined the walls. Neat rows of heels she'd never wear again. A shopping bag sat in the corner. The receipt still attached. A dress for next month's charity gala. The pain in his chest spread to his arm. He fumbled for his phone. Jennifer snatched it away. No hospitals. No more drama. Just breathe. Downstairs, voices echoed. The wake continued without him. His daughter would be greeting mourners alone. He couldn't finish the sentence. Need what? His wife back? The past 24 hours erased? You need me. Jennifer straddled his lap. Only me. Her kiss tasted like scotch now. His scotch. Martha hated scotch. The voices downstairs grew louder. Jennifer's hands worked on his shirt buttons. Not here. He pushed her away. Not in her closet. Fine. She stood, letting Martha's robe fall to the floor. Your room then. Although I think we should take the master suite. It has a better view. Robert's breath came easier, but the ache remained. He followed Jennifer to his room. The guest room. His home since Martha's diagnosis. Jennifer stripped off her funeral dress. Young, firm flesh. No surgery scars. No cancer ravaging her body. Come to bed. She stretched across his sheets. Make me forget this awful day. The sun set outside his window. The wake would end soon. Tomorrow would come with its lawyers and consequences. His phone buzzed again. Emma's text. I hate you. Jennifer took the phone, turned it off. No more distractions. Her skin was warm, alive. His hands remembered other curves, softer with age and motherhood. He closed his eyes. Look at me, Jennifer demanded. Only me. The grandfather clock struck midnight. In the driveway, cars started. The wake was over. His absence noted, documented, judged. Jennifer fell asleep around 2. Her blonde hair spread across his pillow. Robert lay awake. Down the hall, Martha's closet door stood open. The scent of her perfume drifted like a ghost. He got up, walked to the window. The moon lit Martha's roses silver. She'd planted them when Emma was born, 1 bush for each year of their marriage. His chest hurt again. Not a heart attack. Something worse. The roses blurred. Robert Maxwell, who hadn't cried at his wife's funeral, sobbed silently in the dark. Jennifer slept on, smiling in her dreams. Young, ruthless, alive. Morning would bring Richard and his legal papers, Emma and her hatred, the foundation board and their questions. But for now, Robert stood alone in the moonlight, surrounded by Martha's roses, crying for everything he'd thrown away before his wife was cold in her grave. The clock struck 3. In 4 hours, Richard would arrive. Robert touched the window glass. His wedding ring was still in the car, lying in the cup holder like discarded change. Just like his promises to Martha. Just like his marriage. Just like his honor. All thrown away for warm flesh and cherry lip gloss. Jennifer stirred in his bed. Baby, come back. He went. What else could he do? The night stretched endless. Sleep wouldn't come. Tomorrow waited with its consequences. But tonight belonged to regret and Jennifer. The doorbell rang at exactly 9. Robert stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles made his eyes look sunken. His silver hair stood wild from a sleepless night. Jennifer's voice carried from the bedroom. Ignore it. The bell rang again. Then again. Insistent. Mr. Maxwell. Richard's voice echoed through the foyer. I have a key, and I will use it. Robert splashed water on his face. His hands shook. Baby, don't go. Jennifer stretched naked across the sheets. Send him away. The lock clicked downstairs. Footsteps on marble. For God's sake, put some clothes on. Robert threw her dress at her. And stay up here. He found Richard in Martha's study. The lawyer stood behind her desk, holding a thick manila envelope. You look like hell. Richard's voice was cold. It's early. It's 9. Richard dropped the envelope on the desk. Martha's will. Time-sensitive changes. Heels clicked on the stairs. Richard's face darkened. I told you to stay upstairs. Robert didn't turn around. Jennifer appeared in the doorway, wearing one of Martha's silk robes again. I'm hungry. I was gonna make breakfast. Get out. Richard's voice could have frozen hell. This is my house now. Jennifer smiled. Right, baby? Actually, Richard opened the envelope. That's exactly what we need to discuss. Papers spread across Martha's desk. Legal documents, property deeds, bank statements. 2 weeks ago, Richard continued, Martha made changes. Significant ones. The cook appeared in the hallway, carrying a suitcase. Maxwell, I quit. My resignation letter is with Mayors. Chance. Jennifer laughed. More wages saved. Robert's phone rang. Emma's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, Richard said. She should hear this too. Emma's voice filled the room on speaker. You bastard. It's all over the internet. Emma, photos of you and that whore at Mom's funeral. Comments about you missing the wake. Donors pulling out of the foundation. Jennifer poured herself coffee from Martha's favorite cup. Sounds like someone needs therapy. Is that her? Emma's voice cracked. In Mom's house? Using Mom's things? Richard cut in. I'm here with the will. You should come over. I'd rather die. Trust me. Richard smiled grimly. You want to hear this in person. 30 minutes later, Emma's Mercedes screeched into the driveway. Her heels pounded up the front steps like artillery fire. She burst into the study, designer sunglasses hiding red eyes. This better be good. Sit down. Richard pointed to Martha's leather chair. All of you. Jennifer perched on Robert's lap. Emma made a gagging sound. 2 weeks before her death, Richard began. Martha came to my office. She was concerned about the foundation's future. Robert's chest tightened. The panic from last night threatened to return. She made changes to her will, legal binding changes. Richard picked up a document. The house, for starters, now belongs to the foundation, to be used as its headquarters. What? Jennifer sat up straight. You have 30 days to vacate. Richard smiled. Both of you. Emma laughed for the first time since her mother's death. The foundation itself, Richard continued, is now under the sole control of a board of trustees. Emma holds the majority vote. Robert stood up, dumping Jennifer onto the floor. She can't do that. The foundation was joint property. No. Richard held up another paper. You signed full control over to her 3 years ago. Remember? When you were too busy with other pursuits to attend board meetings? Jennifer scrambled to her feet. What about his money? The accounts? Martha's personal wealth, roughly 60% of their joint assets, goes to Emma and the foundation. Richard shuffled papers. The remaining 40% is yours, Robert. Minus what Martha donated last week. Donated? Robert's voice cracked. $50 million to cancer research. Richard's eyes were hard. She signed the papers an hour before she died. Jennifer's face went white. How much is left? Enough to maintain your lifestyle. Richard gathered the documents. Assuming you don't keep a mistress. Emma stood up. When do they have to be out? 30 days. Richard checked his watch. Starting yesterday. Jennifer grabbed Robert's arm. Baby, he can't do this. Fight it, actually. Richard pulled out one last paper. There's more. The foundation's bylaws have been amended. Any board member whose personal conduct threatens the foundation's reputation can be removed by majority vote. Emma's smile was razor sharp. I call for an emergency board meeting. Today, Robert sank into Martha's chair. The leather still smelled like her perfume. One last thing. Richard handed Emma a sealed envelope. Your mother's personal letter to you, to be opened after the will reading. Jennifer paced the room, her borrowed robe swishing. This is insane. Robert, do something. His phone buzzed. Breaking news alerts. Maxwell Foundation in crisis. Scandal rocks Chicago society, Martha Maxwell's final act. Philanthropic legacy protected. Maxwell Mistress scandal. Donors flee foundation. Emma stood over him, tears and triumph in her eyes. Mom knew. She knew about Jennifer. She protected us from you. The board meets at 2. Richard packed his briefcase. I suggest you both find somewhere else to live. Jennifer threw Martha's coffee cup against the wall. It shattered like Robert's world. The grandfather clock struck 10. In 4 hours, he'd lose the foundation. In 30 days, he'd lose the house. He'd already lost his daughter. Emma paused at the door. I hope she was worth it, Dad. Jennifer's mascara ran down her cheeks. This can't be happening. But it was. Martha had won from beyond the grave. Robert touched the desk's smooth wood. 30 years of memories in this house. Gone. Baby. Jennifer's voice turned sweet. We can fight this. Get lawyers. Get out. He didn't look at her. What? Get out. His voice cracked like the broken coffee cup. Now. Jennifer stood frozen. You're choosing them over me? There's nothing left to choose. He looked at his empty ring finger. Nothing left at all. Her scream echoed through the house as she ran upstairs. Drawers slammed. Hangers scraped. Richard watched from the doorway. Martha loved you, Robert. Despite everything. I know. The lawyer's footsteps faded. The front door closed softly. Upstairs, Jennifer was still screaming, still breaking things. Robert sat in Martha's chair, surrounded by the wreckage of his life, and waited for 2 o'clock to come. The Maxwell Enterprises boardroom buzzed with whispers. 12 board members sat around the polished table, their phones face up, news alerts flashing. Robert straightened his tie, the same tie from the funeral. He hadn't changed. This emergency meeting will come to order. Richard stood at the head of the table. First item, removal of Robert Maxwell from the foundation board. Jennifer's mascara-stained face appeared on every screen. Maxwell Mistress. Meltdown. Security escorts woman from family mansion. The vote must be unanimous, Robert said. His voice sounded hollow. No. Richard smiled thinly. Martha changed that too. Majority rules. Phones buzzed. More headlines. Maxwell Foundation donors withdraw millions. Cancer Research Center refuses Maxwell money. Society Queen's legacy in shambles. Emma sat opposite her father. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. I moved to remove Robert Maxwell from the board. Effective immediately. Seconded. The vote was quick. Brutal. 10 hands raised. Only Robert stayed down. Motion carried. Richard made a note. Mom, Maxwell, please leave the room. Robert stood. His legs felt weak. The company remains yours. Richard checked his papers. For now. Though your shareholders might have opinions about that. In the outer office, his secretary's desk sat empty. A resignation letter lay in the center. His phone rang. Jennifer, what now? His voice cracked. Your credit cards don't work. She was crying. I'm at Saks. They humiliated me. He hung up. Through the boardroom glass, he watched Emma take his seat at the table. The elevator dinged. Alice, his PR director, rushed out. Maxwell. CNN wants a statement. Twitter's exploding. The Cancer Center. Handle it. How? She thrust her tablet at him. Your mistress is trending. Hashtag Maxwell Mistress has 10 million views. Video played silently. Jennifer being escorted from the mansion. screaming in Martha's robe. Security guards on either side. "Get me a drink." Robert walked into his office. "And call my broker." The stock ticker on his wall blinked red. Maxwell Enterprises down 15% in 2 hours. Alice returned with scotch. "Sir, the charity gala next month. All the major donors have pulled out. Cancel it." "But it's Martha's." She stopped. "Yes, sir." His phone buzzed. "Jennifer again. They're saying horrible things about me online. Fix it." The scotch burned. Outside his window, reporters gathered in the parking lot. Emma walked past his office. She didn't look in. "Sir?" Alice hovered in the doorway. "The shareholders want an emergency meeting." "When?" "Now. They're calling in remotely." Robert loosened his tie. On his desk, a photo of Martha lay face down. The conference call was a firing squad. Irresponsible behavior. Stock price in freefall. Public relations nightmare. Vote of no confidence. Jennifer's texts kept coming. "I'm at the Four Seasons. Come get me. Baby, I need money. Don't ignore me." The shareholders' voices blurred together. Words like stepping down and interim CEO floated past. His broker called. "Bob, you're hemorrhaging money. The foundation scandal." He hung up. Emma's voice carried from the boardroom. "The foundation will survive." Without him, Alice appeared again. "Sir, TMZ has photos. You and Jennifer. From before? Before what?" "Before Mrs. Maxwell died." The scotch glass shattered in his hand. Blood dripped onto Martha's fallen photo. His phone rang. Jennifer's friend Tiffany. "She's threatening to talk to TMZ. You need to send money." The office walls closed in. He couldn't breathe. "Sir?" Alice's voice was distant. "Your hand is bleeding." Security cameras caught it all. Robert Maxwell, stumbling out of his own building. Blood on his shirt. Tie askew. Reporters swarmed. "Mr. Maxwell, comment on the foundation? Is it true you were with Jennifer during your wife's final days? What about the cancer center rejection?" He pushed through them. His Mercedes was blocked by news vans. "Mr. Maxwell." A microphone thrust in his face. "Did you kill your wife's foundation for a younger woman?" His fist connected with the reporter's jaw. More cameras flashed. More headlines born. Emma watched from her office window. She didn't move to help. Robert ran. 3 blocks in his Italian leather shoes. His phone wouldn't stop. "Jennifer. Baby. They're being so mean." Broker. "Bob, you need to stop the bleeding." Alice. "Sir, the video of the punch is viral." Richard. "You've lost your mind." A taxi took him to the Four Seasons. Jennifer waited in the lobby, mascara stained and dangerous. "They froze my cards." She clung to him. "Your cards." "Everything. It's over." His voice was sandpaper. "What?" "Us. Everything. It's done." Her scream echoed through the marble lobby. Cell phones recorded every second. "You promised." She clawed at his bloody shirt. "You said we'd be together." Security approached. More cameras rolled. "I loved you." Jennifer's voice could shatter glass. "I waited while she died." The words hung in the air. Recorded. Uploaded. Viral. Security dragged her away. Her words followed him out. "I helped you kill her. I helped you wait." Cameras flashed. Tomorrow's headlines wrote themselves. His phone buzzed one last time. "Emma, I hope you burn in hell." Robert Maxwell, who built an empire on pride, walked into the Chicago night alone. Behind him, his world crumbled. Ahead, only darkness waited. And somewhere, Martha watched it all burn. The diary sat on Richard's desk like a bomb. Small, leather-bound, Martha's elegant handwriting filling its pages. She gave it to me. Richard watched Robert's face. The day she changed her will, Robert's hand shook. 3 days since the Four Seasons, since Jennifer's screams went viral. "Read it." Richard pushed the diary forward. You need to know. The first entry was dated 6 months ago. Robert missed another chemotherapy session. Jennifer texted during my treatment. I saw her name on his phone. Robert turned the page. The foundation is my legacy. He's never understood that. Too busy with his empire. His secretary. Another page. Doctor. Wilson says months, maybe weeks. Robert was in meetings again. Emma held my hand instead. Keep reading. Richard's voice was ice. The latest entry shook. I'm changing everything. The house, the money, the foundation. He can have his Jennifer, but he won't destroy what I've built. Robert closed the diary. Bile rose in his throat. His phone lay silent. Jennifer had stopped calling after the hotel. After her words sparked investigations. The police want to talk to you. Richard leaned back. Those things Jennifer screamed. About helping you wait. She was hysterical. Was she? The office door opened. Emma stood there, holding a manila folder. The hospital records? She dropped them on the desk. Every time Dad missed Mom's treatments. Every business meeting that kept him away. Robert's chest hurt. He hadn't slept in days. You killed her, Emma said flatly. Not directly. But you killed her all the same. The folder contained photos. Security camera stills. Robert and Jennifer entering hotels while Martha took chemotherapy alone. The foundation board meets tomorrow. Emma's voice cracked. To discuss the investigation. Richard opened his laptop. Breaking news filled the screen. Maxwell Enterprises CEO under investigation. Wrongful death allegations surface. Foundation scandal deepens. Did Maxwell abandon dying wife? The shareholders vote tomorrow too. Richard closed the laptop. You'll lose everything. Single quotes. Robert touched Martha's diary. The leather was warm, like living skin. Your secretary talked. Emma's words fell like stones. About the affair. About Mom's final days. More photos spilled from the folder. Jennifer and Martha's favorite restaurants. Robert's hand on her thigh while his wife died alone. Get out. Emma's voice shook. Get out of Mom's office. Robert stood. His legs barely held him. The elevator opened to chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Maxwell, did you neglect your wife's care? Was Jennifer involved in Mrs. Maxwell's death? Did you choose your mistress over your wife's treatment? Security pushed through the crowd. Flashbulbs turned the world white. His phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. They're questioning me. I'm scared. What should I tell them? The garage was worse. Cameras everywhere. Microphones thrust at his face. He reached his car. Inside, silence fell. The engine wouldn't start. Again. Again. Dead. Like Martha. His phone lit up. Breaking news. Jennifer speaks. Maxwell Mistress tells all. Exclusive interview. He chose me over her. Foundation board. Calls for criminal investigation. The garage filled with police lights. Blue and red painted his world. M.R. Maxwell. A detective appeared at his window. We need you to come with us. Questions came in a gray room. Where were you during her treatments? Did you intentionally miss hospital visits? Were you with Jennifer when Martha died? His lawyer arrived. Words like negligence and criminal intent floated past. Hours later, he stumbled into his hotel room. The mansion was a crime scene now. Evidence of neglect. CNN played silently. Jennifer cried on camera. Claimed ignorance. Painted herself victim. Emma announced a foundation investigation. Hospital staff testified about Martha's lonely deaths. His phone died. He didn't charge it. The mirror showed a stranger. Gray hair wild. Designer suit wrinkled. Eyes haunted. Martha's diary sat in his briefcase. Smuggled out of Richard's office. He read all night. Robert missed the scan results. Another treatment alone. Emma says he's with her again. I can't fight both cancers, the one in my body and the one in my marriage. The last entry blurred. I forgive him, but I won't let him destroy my legacy. The foundation will survive. Emma will see to that. And Robert? He'll have what he chose. Nothing. Morning came. His phone charged enough for headlines. Maxwell Enterprises board votes today. Criminal investigation widens. Jennifer's tell-all. His wife died alone. A text from Emma. Mom knew everything. She died knowing you chose Jennifer. I'll never forgive you. The hotel room walls closed in. No escape. Martha's diary fell open. I loved him once. Before power corrupted him. Before younger flesh mattered more than 30 years of marriage. Robert Maxwell, who built an empire on pride and lost it for lust, sat alone in a hotel room while his world burned. The diary's final words condemned him. He'll realize too late. Love was worth more than all his millions. Police sirens wailed outside. Time had run out. Truth had won. And Martha's ghost haunted every page. The boardroom at Maxwell Enterprises felt colder today. 26 pairs of eyes watched Robert from screens around the room. The emergency shareholder meeting couldn't wait. The vote is final. Richard's voice cut through the silence. Effective immediately, Robert Maxwell is removed as CEO. No one looked surprised. The stock had dropped 60% in a week. The criminal investigation Robert started is none of our concern. A shareholder's voice crackled through speakers. This company won't go down with you. Security waited by the door. Empty boxes sat ready. You have 1 hour, Richard said. Clear your office. Jennifer's interview played on every channel. He missed his wife's final moments to be with me. I'll never forgive myself. Robert's hands shook as he packed. Awards, photos, 30 years of power reduced to cardboard boxes. His phone rang. The detective again. Mr. Maxwell, we need to discuss the hospital records. Martha's empty treatment dates filled a spreadsheet. Each blank space matched a hotel receipt. Jennifer's name on room service bills. The office door opened. Emma stood there, pale but steady. The foundation board voted. Her voice was flat. We're pursuing charges. Robert sat heavily in his chair, his last hour as CEO ticking away. Why? The question barely came out. Why did she tell them everything? Money. Emma's laugh was bitter. TMZ paid 6 figures for the story. On his desk, more headlines screamed. Maxwell Mistress. He watched his wife die. Foundation files criminal charges. Empire falls. Maxwell's final disgrace. The hour passed too quickly. Security stood waiting. Your key card. The guard's voice was professionally empty. And your parking pass. Robert carried 1 box himself. Let the rest be shipped. The elevator opened to cameras. Questions hit like bullets. Did you choose your mistress over your wife? Were you with Jennifer when Martha died? How's it feel to lose everything? His Mercedes was gone. Repossessed that morning. A taxi took him to his hotel. The Four Seasons had kicked him out days ago. This place was cheaper. Dimmer. Jennifer waited in the lobby. Baby, her voice trembled. I had to tell them. They were going to investigate me too. He walked past her. Robert! She grabbed his arm. I'm broke. The stories aren't selling anymore. I need nothing. His voice cracked. You have nothing left to sell. Her face twisted. I'll tell them more. About the nights you didn't answer Martha's calls. Tell them. The elevator opened. There's nothing left to take. His room smelled of cheap cleaning products. No minibar. No room service. The box sat heavy on the bed. Awards for business excellence. Photos of charity galas. Martha's smile in everyone. His phone buzzed. The detective. New evidence has surfaced. We need you to come in. Emma had found Martha's private journals, the ones she kept during chemo. The investigation expanded. Criminal negligence, willful abandonment, financial misconduct. Jennifer's story grew with each interview. He planned to leave Martha before she got sick. He said the foundation was a waste of money. He called her charity work a hobby. The hotel room walls pressed closer. Robert opened his laptop. His accounts were frozen, credit cards canceled, assets seized pending investigation. A knock at the door. More detectives, more questions, more evidence of betrayal. Hours passed in fluorescent rooms, hospital security footage, bank records, hotel receipts. Release came at midnight. No charges yet, but soon, the hotel hallway stretched endless. His key card didn't work. Payment declined, the front desk clerk said. You need to leave. Rain fell outside. His phone was dead. No charger, no car, no options. Jennifer's words played on loop in his head. He watched his wife die, but he hadn't watched. He hadn't been there. He'd been with Jennifer instead. The street offered no shelter. Rain soaked his last good suit. A text from Emma before his phone died. Mom knew she was dying alone. That's what killed her first. Coffee shops closed. Hotels turned him away. His credit cards rejected. Martha's diary sat in his box of belongings. He chose power over love, money over marriage, lust over loyalty. Now he had none of them. Midnight found him on a park bench. Designer shoes soaked. Italian suit ruined. Pride drowned in rain. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more accusations, more truth. But tonight, Robert Maxwell sat alone in the rain. No empire, no mistress, no daughter, no wife. Just memories of choices made, moments missed. A death watched through hotel windows, and Martha's words haunting the dark. He'll learn too late. Love was worth more than power. The rain fell harder. Chicago's lights blurred. Night swallowed him whole. And somewhere, Martha's ghost smiled. Justice served cold as rain. The rehab center walls were beige, neutral, safe. Robert sat in a plastic chair, 30 days sober from power, from pride, from everything. Tell me about Martha, doctor. Sarah Chun leaned forward. No relation to his former housekeeper, just cosmic irony. I found her letter. Robert's voice was raw. In the mansion, before they took the house, the letter had waited in Martha's desk. His name in her careful script. My dearest Robert, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you've lost everything. Doctor. Chun waited. Silence filled the room. She knew. The words hurt coming out. About Jennifer. About missing her treatments. Everything. The letter burned in his pocket. I loved you enough to let you go. To let you choose. You chose power, pride, flesh. Now live with those choices. Rain tapped the window. His first therapy session in 60 years of life. Why now, doctor? Chun asked. Why therapy after everything fell? His phone lay silent on the table. Dead for days. No one to call. Emma, his daughter's name tasted like regret. She said Mom made her promise to help me if I ever hit bottom. The headlines had stopped. Old news now. Maxwell Empire dissolved. Foundation recovers under new leadership. Mistress tell-all book fails to sell. Jennifer's last text. Before his phone died, I hate you. You cost me everything. Doctor. Chun's pen scratched paper. Tell me about the night you chose Jennifer over Martha's treatment. The memory stabbed deep. Martha waiting at the hospital. His phone turned off. Jennifer's skin against hotel sheets. I told myself she had Emma there. His voice cracked. That she didn't need me. More of Martha's letter burned. You weren't there when the pain came. When fear kept me awake. When death knocked at midnight. But I saw you. In hotel lobbies. Restaurant windows. living while I died. The therapy room seemed smaller, walls closer. Your daughter called, Doctor, Chun said softly. She's willing to meet. Hope hurt worse than shame. Why? The question barely came out. Martha's last wish. Doctor. Chun handed him a paper. From her final letter to Emma. Different handwriting, same love. Help him heal, darling. Not for him, for you. Hate corrodes, forgiveness frees. Robert's hands shook. I don't deserve, no. Doctor. Chun cut in. You don't. But Martha did. The rain fell harder. Thunder crashed. His reflection watched from the window. Gray hair wild, designer clothes gone, dignity stripped. When? His voice broke on the word. Tonight, Doctor. Chun checked her watch. She's waiting downstairs. Panic clawed his chest. I can't, you can, Doctor. Chun stood. Martha believed you could. The elevator ride lasted forever. Each floor a descent into truth. Emma waited in the lobby. Black coat, mother's pearls, Martha's eyes. Dad, one word, a lifetime of pain. They sat in the rehab center's garden. Rain made conversation easier. Why didn't you tell me? Emma's voice was small. About missing mom's treatments? Pride. The truth came easier now. Power. Stupid pride. Lightning flashed. Emma flinched. She asked for you. The words fell like rain. At the end. She asked for you, but he'd been with Jennifer. Phone off. Lost in flesh and denial. The foundation's doing well. Emma wiped her eyes. Mom would be proud. Pride. The word that destroyed everything. I'm sorry. 2 words. 30 years late. Emma's hand found his. Small. Warm. Alive. Mom's last letter. She pulled out paper. She made me promise to show you. When you were ready, Martha's final words blurred in the rain. Love him enough to help him heal. He's lost, like you were once. Remember when you were 16? Running wild? I never gave up. Don't give up on him. Thunder rolled. Emma's grip tightened. I haven't forgiven you. Her voice shook. Not yet. I know. But Mom asked me to try. Rain soaked them both. Neither moved. The investigation's closed, Emma whispered. No charges. Relief felt like betrayal. Jennifer's book failed. She continued. No one cares anymore. Old news died. Fresh scandals took their place. The house sold yesterday. Emma's words cut deep. The foundation got a good price. Martha's roses would die. New owners wouldn't understand their meaning. Come to dinner. The invitation shocked them both. Next week. Meet my fiancé. Life moved on, even when you weren't ready. Your mother's pearls. Robert touched them gently. They suit you. She left instructions. Emma smiled through tears. About everything. Single quotes Martha. Planning, protecting, even in death. The rain eased. Stars peeked through clouds. Next week then, Emma stood. Don't disappoint me again. She left him in the garden, alone with Martha's words. Love endures. Pride falls. Choose better this time. Robert Maxwell sat in the rain. No empire, no power, but something new grew in the ashes. Hope, small as a mustard seed, fragile as trust, precious as love. Martha's final gift, a chance to choose again. This time, he wouldn't waste it. Emma's house was smaller than the mansion, warmer, a 3-bedroom in Lincoln Park with a garden Martha would have loved. Robert rang the doorbell. His hands shook. You came. Emma's surprise hurt worse than anger. Inside, photos lined the walls. Martha at the foundation. Martha with Emma. Martha live. Tom's in the kitchen. Emma took his coat. He's nervous about meeting you. The fiancé looked young. Architect. No money. Just talent and Emma's smile. Maxwell. Tom wiped his hands on a dish towel. I've heard. Well, I've heard everything. Haven't we all, Robert thought. Dinner was pasta. No chef, no silver service. Just family style and awkward silence. The Foundation's expanding single quotes, Emma broke the quiet. New cancer wing opens next month. Martha's legacy, growing without him. I saw Jennifer, Tom said suddenly, on Michigan Avenue. She looked different. The mistress who destroyed everything, now selling real estate in strip malls. Tom, Emma's voice held warning. No. Robert set down his fork. It's okay. She made her choices, like I did. The doorbell rang. Emma tensed. Richard Stewart stood outside, rain-soaked, grim. Sorry to interrupt. The lawyer held up a folder. But this couldn't wait. Martha's handwriting covered the pages. Another letter. Another truth. She left instructions. Richard sat heavily. About tonight. Emma's hand shook. Mom knew? She knew everything. Richard opened the folder. Even about Tom. The letter was dated 3 days before her death. My darling Emma, by now you've met Tom. He's the one. A good man. Unlike your father, but not beyond redemption. Like your father. Robert's wine glass trembled. Tonight, Richard read, when they sit at your table, give them both my gift. 2 envelopes, one thick, one thin. The Foundation board meets tomorrow. Richard handed them over. Martha's final wishes need witnesses. Emma opened her envelope first. Her gasp filled the room. Mom's journals. Tears fell. All of them. Even the ones before I was born. Robert's envelope felt light. 1 page. 3 words. I forgive you. There's more. Richard pulled out legal papers. She left conditions. Of course she did. Martha planned everything. The Foundation needs a new project. Richard smiled slightly. Addiction treatment. Pride rehabilitation. What? Emma looked up from the journals. Your father's experience. Richard nodded at Robert. Martha thought it might help others. The room spun. Tom steadied him. She wants... Robert's voice cracked. She wanted me to serve. Richard finished. Not lead. Not control. Serve. Emma's kitchen blurred. Martha's words everywhere. In journals, in letters, in memories. There's a position. Single quotes, Emma spoke softly. On the Foundation's advisory board. Unpaid. Of course unpaid. Martha knew money corrupted him. Speaking engagements. Richard continued. Sharing your story. Warning others. Pride's price tag. Public confession. Mom believed. Emma touched the journals. She believed shame kills more than cancer. Thunder crashed outside. Nature's punctuation. You don't have to decide now. Richard stood. Martha gave you time, but time had run out long ago. Yes, the words surprised them all. Yes? Emma's voice shook. I'll do it. Robert looked at Martha's photos. All of it. Tom squeezed Emma's hand. Pride's offspring recognizing redemption. The press conference. Richard checked his watch. Tomorrow at 10. I'll be there. No hesitation now. Emma's tears fell silent. Happy? Sad? Both? She knew. Richard gathered his papers. Martha knew you'd choose right. Eventually, the rain eased outside. Stars peeked through. Stay. Emma touched Robert's arm. Please. There's more in Mom's journals. More truth. More pain. More healing. Tom opened wine. The good kind. Like Martha used to serve. She wrote about your wedding day. Emma read aloud. How proud she was. How much she believed. Robert closed his eyes. Memory's knife twisted. Martha in white. His promises. Their dreams. She never stopped believing. Emma turned pages. Even at the end, Martha's faith. Stronger than death. The night grew soft around them. Family pieced together. Not perfect, Not whole, but healing. Tomorrow would bring cameras, questions, confession. But tonight held Martha's gift: forgiveness, purpose, peace. Robert Maxwell sat in his daughter's kitchen. No empire, no power, just truth and love and hope. Martha's final legacy: redemption comes to those who serve, not rule. The stars shone brighter. Tomorrow waited, and somewhere Martha smiled. The rehabilitation center's opening ceremony drew hundreds. Robert stood at the podium 6 months after his fall. "My name is Robert Maxwell." His voice carried across the crowd. "And I killed my wife." Cameras flashed. Emma squeezed his hand. Not with weapons. The words came easier now. With pride, with absence, with choices. Martha's photo smiled from the wall behind him. The Martha Maxwell Center for Addiction and Recovery. She died alone. Truth cut deep. While I chased power, pleasure, pride. The crowd sat silent. Even reporters stopped writing. This center. He gestured at the building. Her final gift, not to me, to you, to anyone pride destroys. 6 months of therapy, group sessions, private pain, public healing. My wife knew. His voice steady now. Pride kills more than cancer, more than drugs, more than alcohol. Emma stepped forward, ready for her part. Our first patient, she took the microphone, arrives today. Jennifer walked through the doors. Head down. Designer clothes gone. Help me, her whisper carried. Please. Pride's children, all of them. The ceremony ended quietly. No champagne, no celebration. Just purpose, just service, just truth. Later, in Martha's old office, now Emma's, the foundation board met. Donations are up. Richard smiled. Martha would be proud. Would she? Robert wondered, or just satisfied. The cancer wing opens next month. Emma checked reports. Mom's research funding paid off. Martha's legacy grew. Medical breakthroughs. Lives saved. Hope given. Dad? Emma's voice soft. Tell him your news. Robert stood. 6 months sober from power. I'm selling the company. The words felt right. Everything goes to the foundation. Gasps around the table. Richard's eyes wide. All of it? Someone asked. Everything? No hesitation now. Martha's work matters more. Emma's tears fell silent. Pride's daughter seeing clear. The papers are ready. Richard pulled out folders. Martha prepared them. Just in case. Of course she did. Martha planned everything. The signing took minutes. 30 years of empire reduced to ink. What now? Emma asked after. Service. Robert touched Martha's photo. Just service? The day passed in signatures. Legal ends tied neat. Evening found them in the garden. The new garden at the center. Jennifer starts treatment tomorrow. Emma watched the sunset. Mom would have helped her dot single quotes. Yes. Martha's heart stretched wider than his. Tom and I set a date. Emma smiled. Spring wedding. Like you and Mom. Memory's knife cut gentle now. Martha in white. Love pure. Pride nowhere. She'd be there. Robert squeezed her hand. In every flower. Every smile. The garden bloomed around them. Martha's roses transplanted here. The book comes out next week. Emma touched her pearls. Martha's pearls. Your story. Your warning. Pride's price printed clear. Truth told plain. Lessons learned late. Night fell soft. Stars bright. Dad? Emma's voice small. I forgive you. 3 words. Worth more than billions. Inside, phones rang. Lives needed saving. Jennifer's voice carried from group therapy. Pride ate my soul. Help me find it. Single quotes. Robert Maxwell stood in Martha's garden. No empire, no power, no pride. Just purpose. Just love. Just truth. Tomorrow would bring more stories, more healing, more hope. But tonight held Martha's victory. Pride fell. Love rose. Peace came. The roses bloomed in darkness. Stars shone clear. And Martha's legacy lived on, in service, in truth, in love. Robert touched the roses, Martha's roses, now blooming for others, Pride's children, learning late, but learning still. The night grew gentle. Tomorrow waited. And somewhere Martha smiled. Pride's price paid full. Love's lesson learned. Peace finally found in Martha's garden, under Martha's stars, living Martha's truth. If you enjoyed this story, we'd love for you to support us by leaving a like and subscribing to our Slices of Life channel. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Which city are you talking about? It's very rewarding for us to provide our followers with an enjoyable moment. We appreciate the unconditional support you show us in every story. Blessings!